So in due course of time, be ready for being sleepless. You are all getting ready to be sleepless. So anybody who is enjoying sleep, my suggestion is enjoy the sleep now itself. In due course of time, two things will happen. With age, anyway, you will not sleep. Age decreases sleep. As you make spiritual progress, also you will not sleep. You will not need sleep actually. So either way, as you go from now, from say 25, 30, by the time you come to 55, 60, you will actually sleep very less. People used to praise Indira Gandhi that she used to sleep only for 4 hours. Now Narendra Modi also sleeps for only 3, 4 hours. Because at that age, they don't anyway get sleep. Since they don't get sleep, they'll keep all the bureaucrats also awake. Other ministers also awake. So the point is, with age anyway, our sleep actually comes down. But with spiritual progress also, the need for the sleep comes down. That is one fundamental thing. You don't feel the need for as such. You know, Babuji used to chit chat and spend a lot of time with Abhyasis when who used to go to his house. He used to be awake till 12:30, 1:30. Then he'll also tell everyone, okay, now it's time to sleep, go to retire and go and sleep. So everyone will go. Okay. Then in 1 hour he'll be back, 2:30 back on the chair. He was not at all sleeping. Vivekananda says in 1944 whispers that we will not allow you to sleep more than 2 hours. You have so much work to do. I will not allow you to sleep more than 2 hours. This is what Vivekananda says. And that's exactly what happens. So when you actually grow spiritually, you have so much work because there are not many conduits of nature who can do higher work. As it's like a pyramid. The higher you go, the less number of people who are available to do the nature's work. So the less likely that you are going to be allowed to sleep. You will not be able to sleep. One, because the responsibility of nature's work is on you. Even now, if you have a IT people, I know that they don't do bulk of the work during the daytime and then they spend the night saying that I've been working through the night. Right? So they're all very busy working. And I have seen this happen in the UK also. Same thing. Our HR in our hospital also is the same thing. In the sense that they'll keep all the things pending till 4 o'clock. They start actually working at 4 o'clock. Then they spend time till 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. And then say that they've been working since morning till 9 o'clock. So there are people who use different strategies to show that they're actually overworking. But in spirituality, you cannot do that. Because spirituality teaches you to be honest with yourself. So it will never allow you to postpone any unnecessary work. In spirituality, you learn to do the work efficiently, much faster at an earlier, faster pace and at an earlier time. So this tendency to postpone things goes down in spirituality. Okay, that will come down. So if at all you want to see yourself whether you are actually progressing spiritually, look at yourself. Are you unnecessarily postponing things? If the tendency to postpone things have come down, it's a good sign. If you become more efficient in your work, it's a good sign. If you are doing better work in a shorter period of time, then again it's a good sign. You got the point? So these are all signs that we can actually watch out in our own life, whether we are actually manifesting it. So today, Yashas, what was the point that we were discussing in the morning?
Reality cannot be forced into submission. It is as it is. And the soul is part of the Supreme Soul, and it reveals as it is. It's more like uh, when you put light on something, it gives the answer. The light itself doesn't contain the answer, but once you give out the light, it reveals it, and you have to be patiently waiting. Um,
So meditation is the art of patient waiting. patient, restful waiting. That's all it is. So you need to have patience and you need to restfully wait for answers to emerge. So this is a very important point that we discussed in the morning. That when you shine light on things, it reveals the things. But the light itself is not the answer. Light reveals the things which contains the answer. So the soul cannot be known. The soul is beyond the knower, the knowing, and the known. The soul cannot be known. So when you want to go towards the soul, neither you can know it nor you can actually believe it. What you can do is you can experience it. How do you experience it? By going into the state of the ignorance. So the state of the true self or the soul and the state of the supreme self is one and the same. Both are ignorant. Okay, ignorance is common to both. But that ignorance is of such nature, unlike the lower ignorance, the higher ignorance is of such nature that it enables the knowing. So that ignorance it's called as higher ignorance. So you have a lower ignorance, you have a higher ignorance. The lower ignorance does not enable knowing. The higher ignorance contains the seed from which you can actually know everything. This was the question that was asked in the Upanishad by one of the father to his son. The son has gone for education elsewhere and he's learned all the things he had to learn at that age. Then he comes home puffed up with knowledge and he is very egoistic, very, what do you say, neglecting of his father. So what do you know? I know everything. So that kind of an attitude. Then father sees all this, observes the son. See, the right perspective that person has gained knowledge is, are they humble? In Kannada, there is a saying, what is it? ಕನ್ನಡ ಭೂಪತಿಗಳು ಯಾರಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಹೇಳ್ರಿ. ಯಾರು ಕೇಳಿಲ್ವಾ? ಇಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಕನ್ನಡದವ್ರು ಇದ್ದೀರಿ. ವಿದ್ಯೆಗೆ ಡ್ಯಾಶ್ ಭೂಷಣ, ಇದು ಕೇಳಿಲ್ವಾ? ಇರೋದು 3 ವರ್ಡ್.
ವಿನಯ.
ವಿದ್ಯೆಗೆ ವಿನಯವೇ ಭೂಷಣ. ವಿನಯ ಇಸ್ ಹ್ಯುಮಿಲಿಟಿ. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ವಿದ್ಯೆಗೆ ವಿನಯವೇ ಭೂಷಣ. So any person who is actually learned should have the humility. Learning without the humility means you have not yet digested the learning. So everyone has to pass through a phase of learning where you have not yet digested it. After you have digested the learning, then you will actually manifest the humility. So don't think that you are all any exception. You will also pass through a phase where you will appear to be puffed up with knowledge. And it will happen without your knowledge. You will not even know that's happening until you are very sensitive. So it's a phase that everyone has to pass through. Okay. Now that is the reason why sometimes in spirituality, knowledge as an aspect of practice is not emphasized. This is one of the reasons. Yes, we were talking earlier, no? That we underemphasize knowledge in our system. In many systems, knowledge is actually emphasized a lot. In our system, we underemphasize the knowledge. The simple reason is that knowledge can make a person more egoistic than what is necessary for a spiritual journey. In spirituality, what are you trying to do? You are actually trying to make the ego refined. Like samskaras actually increases the thickness of the ego. Knowledge also, when it is left undigested, can increase the thickness of the ego. Okay. So one who only reads books and develops lot of knowledge would have a higher sense of ego which is impenetrable, a higher thickness of ego, covering of ego which is impenetrable. So knowledge is good provided it is associated with humility. So initially I told you, you pass through a phase where you will puffed up, get puffed up with knowledge. So at that stage, you have to try to practice humility. Be aware and practice humility. That was one of the reasons, earlier in our custom, we used to make students fall to the feet of the teacher. This was the reason. When the child falls to the feet of the teacher, that humility is there, is maintained. So we are nothing, although we might have learned some amount of knowledge, we are nothing in front of the teacher. So that used to kind of act as an antidote. The teacher used to give knowledge, but the behavior of the student was such that the knowledge will not increase the ego. This was the behavior. But unfortunately, that custom has been given away now, most of the places. So that being the case, and then of course, it is also for the teacher not to get puffed up with a sense of pride when the students come and touch their feet. So it works the other way around also. The teacher also needs to be careful because otherwise the teacher will now get puffed up with the sense of pride, which again increases the sense of ego. So any emotion, whether it's positive, negative, or any knowledge can increase the thickness of the ego. Now, one sure shot answer that the ego will not be thickened or it can actually be brought down back to its subtle level or refined level is when we develop humility. Second thing is when we digest the knowledge. If it is samskaras, when we work on the samskaras. So I've given you three things. So knowledge, samskaras, and what is the first thing?
The ability to digest.
Digestion. So digestion, knowledge, and samskaras. So if it is knowledge, you have to learn to digest it. If it is not, sorry, if it is knowledge, you need to learn to digest it. Undigested knowledge makes the ego puffed up. Samskaras, when it is not worked on, makes your ego puffed up. Emotions, when it is not worked up, it causes increase in the ego. It makes you puffed up with ego. Okay. Whenever you emphasize I-ness, I did it, I am important, everything is related to me, that increases the strength of the ego. The more you undermine or efface the ego, the more you can actually develop humility. Okay. Every knowledge that you get is coming from somewhere. We do not own any knowledge. We do not own any spiritual condition. None of it actually belongs to us. Neither we own the samskaras, although we think that we own it. I'll come to that point. Second thing is neither we own the spiritual conditions. That also we don't own. Nor the knowledge. That also we are not the owners of. We do not own any of these three. In fact, today morning we were discussing in the morning session. It was a very nice meditation session today, both the sessions. So I ended up staying till 11:45. The second session of satsang was there 11 to 11:45. So I finished that and then came home. So very nice session. Both was wonderful sessions. And some of the work also happened. One of the Chamarajanagar districts, the preceptor, senior preceptor from there, He is like 35-year-old. He's been a preceptor for last nearly 36, 37 years old, I think. So he had come to give the sitting at 11 o'clock. So we had discussions with him, and then we were discussing about the district that he stays in. So, so one of the things he was talking about is a program there. So he said he's going to come. As I said, we'll come on a Saturday evening and then come back on Monday morning. So we can stay there for 2 days, 2 nights. So he was okay with it. So something we might organize in due course. So, but interestingly, what the model that we were discussing with him was about the need for every district to be self-sustaining in terms of the master's work. So every taluk in every district should have a preceptor who will continue to do the work necessary for the district and have a vision for that particular taluk. You should not just do the preceptor work in such a way that you don't have the vision. Whether you manage a center, sub-center, or a higher center, that doesn't matter. You need to have a vision. What should this center look like 1 year down the line? What are the aspects that we are going to actually aid the Abhyasi in so that the center can actually be at this level 1 year down the line? And this plan that we actually put on paper for the development of our center and our own journey as a preceptor should be in tune with the master's plan. When these two things align, even without anything, you do anything extra, you'll start getting the grace from master just by having the right plan, which is in alignment with his thinking. So I don't want you people to become a preceptor who's just going to give routine sittings. That is okay. Sittings are one part of the journey. But you need to have the sittings in the larger context of the work of the master. Sittings is critical, no doubt about it. But sitting should be part of a larger vision. And that larger vision should be part of the master's vision. You got the point? So that's very, very important. Many of the preceptors, they actually become preceptors and come back and they have not no clue how to go about doing this work. And we don't want you to have that. You need to have some kind of a plan before you go. And then come out with a action plan. You have a plan before and then come back with the necessary tools and skills for implementing the action plan. The plan will become the action plan during your training in Kanha. And then all that you do is you come back and implement the action plan. That should be your outlook. Does it make sense at all? Because I don't want you people to come here feeling lost. So then you know what people do? They wait for the local functionaries to give some guidance. They wait for other preceptors who are their batchmates to give some guidance. They look at some other senior preceptor to give some guidance. And the guidance that was being given in the past was that work will teach you. Of course, work will teach you with anything. But then having an action plan is very, very important. Work will teach you, but work will not teach you the action plan. Work will not teach you how to align your vision with the master's vision. That is not going to be taught by the work. That is something that you have to learn to do. And this is very, very important for all the preceptors. It doesn't matter what age you are actually doing it. When you come back, you need to have an action plan. You remember when we spoke about meditation, we said that meditation is a tool. Gopal Krishna, I told you 4 sentences. You remember that? Can you just read it out?
Becoming the best version of ourselves. I was the first.
Correct. I told you 4 sentences.
To know the reality behind all worldly experience and to be established in that state.
You need to speak out a bit louder. I can't hear you.
Okay. The reality behind the experience. This was the another thing. Experiencer, experience, and
ಜೋರಾಗಿ
the
ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕು ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ವಾಲ್ಯೂಮ್ ಜೋರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊ
is it better?
ಹಾ ಬೆಟರ್ ನಾವು
Yes. Um, So the last one was reality to the reality behind experience, experiencer, experience, and the act of experiencing. With more ಅಂತ ಇತ್ತು.
ಆಮೇಲೆ
If this is not mentioned as a tool, but it was just a point that was written. If we are not at our best version, it's difficult to understand the reality behind experience.
well, that was relating to the first 2 points. I said something else after that.
I think I missed writing that. I wrote 4 points, but I think one of the point was about the first 2 points.
See, I remember that I told 4 points, but I can't remember the fourth point. Maybe it will come back sometime later. But I remember the 3 points. See, why do we do meditation? Why is meditation important? Meditation is a skill to change yourself. I think this is the thing that you need to teach everyone. Like you have driving skill to help you lead a better life. You have a swimming skill. You have a writing skill. You have a reading skill. Likewise, you have meditation skill. That's all it is. It is a skill to help you lead a better life. Now the question comes, how do we lead a better life with meditation? Meditation works on making your mind better. Now, if I'm going to use my mind in every activity that I do in my life, if I make my mind better, then every other activity in my life will be better only. So there is no other tool which works directly on making the tool itself better. The instrument. Meditation is the tool, but which is the instrument? The instrument is the mind. So instead of using the tool and instrument, I think you people will get confused between tool room. So you can say meditation is the means for change, and the mind is the instrument for change. So during meditation, the mind as an instrument changes for the better. So every other thing in our life, we actually do better. This is something to be emphasized, and you have to tag it with the two things. One, meditation is the only tool that can actually help you to know the reality behind the experience. Now, when you grasp the reality behind the experience, you are called as a realized person. Who is a realized person? A realized person is one who has grasped the reality behind an experience, behind all experiences. What is realization? Realization is nothing but grasping the reality behind the experience is reality, realization. Okay. Now, if your mind is not evolved, then you cannot actually realize the reality behind the experience. Because it's the mind which is the instrument which grasps it. So if the mind is not evolved, there is no question of any realization. What exactly happens then? Like a batsman who is in form, suppose there is a batsman who is in form, they are more likely to hit runs, more number of runs. If you are out of form, then you are going to struggle. Likewise, if your mind or if you are in a better version of yourself, in other words, you are in a better form, you are likely to realize the reality behind an experience. If you are out of form, then there is no question of trying to grasp the reality behind the experience. However much you might struggle, you will not be able to realize it. In the end, what helps you to realize the soul or the self is the pure version of yourself, the pure mind. So, this is something that many of the scriptures have emphasized. The pure mind. The pure mind is like a thin, transparent sheet. The soul is easily palpable, feelable, and all the qualities of the soul will become now part of your life. Before that, you remember that one word that we read that we become an unfiltered medium. You remember that one from spiritual this heartfulness way? We become an unfiltered medium. In fact, one of the people in the English group had asked this question in the group. What is this unfiltered medium? We did not understand what it is. Filtered medium is mind which is full of samskaras. unconditioned mind. Unfiltered medium is unconditioned mind, which is devoid of samskaras. A mind which is devoid of samskaras is said to be a pure mind. A mind which is full of samskaras is said to be an impure mind. That's how it is. Okay? So when the mind becomes the purest possible, then it can actually, like a lake will allow you to see through what is there at the bottom. A pure mind will just allow you to see through what is there behind it. Not only you can easily see it, but you can also feel the qualities of it. Unlike something, an object which is kind of just lying there, the soul is like a living entity. So all the qualities of the soul will just kind of just flash through the purified mind, and then it kind of manifests it through their life, through your life. So when the mind becomes purified, it has an impact in the way that our body and the way that we actually function in this life. Life becomes very easy. Life becomes very straightforward. Life becomes very simple and easygoing. That is what happens. Serial. So these were the points that we actually discussed. And the other last point that you need to keep in mind is that you have to tag meditation with the need of the person who has come seeking help. If the person has come saying that I'm not able to sleep, you will say, no, no, let us meditate about realizing God. Then that person will say that I did not come for that. What are you going to tell him or her? In other words, when you detach meditation from the need with which they have actually sought the help, then meditation becomes irrelevant in their life. So what you need to do is, you might want to put your point across, that's okay, but you need to first tag it with the need of the person. So somebody says, I'm not able to study properly. Then you say that meditation helps you to concentrate. But apart from concentration, meditation can also give you a lot of other things going forward. If you incorporate meditation into your life and utilize it as a tool to become a better version of yourself. In this context, they will actually find it irrelevant for them to meditate. Otherwise, they will not meditate. They'll be there for some period of time. After that, they'll go. Can you see that?
They'll
So
not
you
feel
need to
they'll not feel the
highlight
connect, you are
meditation.
saying.
Sorry?
You're saying they'll not feel the connect and they'll leave it.
Correct. See, two things we have to emphasize. One, we have to tag the meditation to the need with which they have come. Secondly, you have to tag the meditation as a means of changing themselves to a better version of themselves. It's a means or it's a tool with which they can actually become better in life. And what happens when they become better? Everything in life becomes easy. They'll have the right perspective of life and they can actually just sail through it much more easily. So this is very, very important. For example, many of the youngsters who came to the CRUST program, they were talking about how their mental health needs need to be met. Now, when you actually pitch in as a meditation as a means of actually meeting their needs, they will definitely become more oriented towards meditation. They'll definitely take meditation more seriously and practice it. Somebody wants meditation to be very fun. If they want meditation to be fun, it needs to be projected in that way. Today morning, somebody was asking me about the changes in meditation. I said, see, if you see a person drunk, don't you think you see the change in their behavior? Then everybody nodded their head. Then if somebody is spiritually intoxicated, they'll also be like that only. That is alcohol intoxication. This is spiritual intoxication. But you can definitely see a change in their behavior. They cannot be the same way. It's not possible. But have you developed the eyes to see that? That is the question we have to ask ourselves. To see the spiritual intoxication that they have developed. People are well versed with alcohol intoxication. People are well versed with drug intoxication. But how many people are well versed with the spiritual intoxication? How many people have you met with spiritual intoxication? Now it is unmissable. If there is spiritual intoxication, it is unmissable. Like a person who's intoxicated with alcohol cannot work properly. A person with spiritual intoxication cannot connect deeply to any objects of this world. They are in this world, but they are not of this world. They are here, but not there. Right? So I think people who have, I don't know how many people here have an experience of alcohol intoxication, but people who have had also alcohol intoxication will definitely easily relate to it. People, when, yeah, in fact, I'll tell you, like in alcohol intoxication, you have disinhibition. Disinhibition means you cannot hold anything back. You will just blurt out everything. In spiritual intoxication also, once you get transmission, you will see that you start blurting out everything. Just remember that. It does happen. You cannot hold back. You don't need to meditate also for that. You just go in front of the person, you will actually just blurt out everything. This has happened to me many times. I go to the sitting saying that I'm not going to tell this to the preceptor. But I go there, sit there, within 10 minutes, I would have uttered everything. And the sitting is not even started. So I'm telling you by experience that you will actually blurt out everything. Now you might wonder, why is that you blurt out everything? It is just that you feel so safe and contained and you feel at ease with yourself. So you don't want to hold on anything which is unnecessary for your journey. So even before the meditation cleaning occurs in the sitting, you actually unload yourself already. So you have cleaned yourself even before the session itself. And then you start going into the session. Then you will have a wonderful session of meditation. And that's something that you will see. As you grow, you will find it very, very hard to conceal things, so to say. Everything just comes out. Because it's unnecessary for your journey. Now that is provided you are very much craving for your journey. Now the last point I said that everything will come out. Suppose you forcibly hold it. What happens? If you forcibly hold it, although I keep telling you that you are the sacrosanct owner of your samskaras and nobody can touch it. Even God cannot touch it, nor Guru can touch it. Nature continues to work on your samskaras. Nature continues to work on it and brings the samskaras to bhoga. That you cannot avoid. So although you are the sacrosanct owner, or you think that you are the sacrosanct owner of the samskaras, the nature continues to hold on it without your consent. Remember that. Master will wait for your consent. God will wait for your consent. Nature will not wait for your consent. It will work on the samskaras and bring it to bhoga. Now just imagine, if that is how the nature is working, how good a friend nature is for us in the spiritual journey. Even when the Guru is refusing to work because you are not given the permission to work, even when God is refusing to work because you have not given the permission to work, nature will continue to work on clearing the samskaras by bringing it to bhoga. It does not wait for your consent. In other words, nature is like a overriding thing. It does not wait for your consent. It overrides your consent and tries to make you cleaner and purer. That's what nature does. So it's such a nice friend to have. And what do? We detest nature. We destroy nature. That's what we do. That's why the fourth maxim is very, very important. Simplify your life. Try to lead a life in tune with nature. Now, as of now, we are out of tune with nature and nature is trying to help. Now, if you become in tune with nature, then just imagine how much it can help you. But nature has a limitation, which a guru does not have. What is that limitation? This is, in other words, asking the same question in a different way. What is the difference between bhoga and the cleaning that you undergo with the perceptor?
Nature works on one samskara at a time, whereas Guru has the capacity to clean off multiple samskaras at a time.
Exactly. So nature works on us all the time. Even when we are not in meditation, nature is working on us to clear the samskaras. But the limitation, the drawback is it can only bring one samskara to bhoga at a time. That is a very big limitation. Unlike nature, which can only bring one samskara to bhoga at a time, when you take a sitting, many samskaras can be cleared in just half an hour of sitting. So Charity used to say that there are many sittings with the master where load of 100 lives, 200 lives are cleared in half an hour sitting. That's how it works. Just imagine, bringing one samskara to bhoga at a time, it will take a lifetime to even cover this lifetime samskara. Because every time we are forming more and more, right? You put something to the body, it digests. Then once you go, after some time, it is digested, and then again you feel like eating, right? So the advantage of going to Banashankari's cottage, the people who came to the cottage today, is that I had it was nice rava idli today, Banashankari ashram. So we had to. I told the people whom I met that I'll have the third one. I went there, and then they pulled me to the cottage. When I went their cottage, they said, "Wait, wait, we have something special for you." They gave two vadas also. Then after that, they said they were not satisfied. They also gave some jackfruit. They also gave some watermelon. So that's the advantage of peeping into the cottage on and off. I'm giving a clue. You need to be in the
You are
right
not
place at
giving,
the right time to catch the right thing.
you are encouraging everyone to come to Banshankari actually.
No, I'm not encouraging you to go to Banshangri. I'm encouraging you to go to the kitchen in whichever ashram you go. The kitchen and master's cottage. That's where bulk of the activity is. So that's something you have to remember as you grow. And I think once you become a perceptor, you will gain access to it to a certain extent.
That
Okay.
is true. Whatever you said, you have to be at the right place to get anything. So that
You
happened to
have to
me
be at the
once.
right place at the right time to get the maximum.
Yes, yes, that happened to me. I went to Chennai once, and opposite to Chennai ashram, there was a Charity's apartment, right? So I went inside to give something, and at that time they all started having lunch. So by chance, Ajay Bhatt was there, right, brother? So before Daji, someone else was. So he gave me the plate. Chariji was just opposite to me. He gave me a plate. He said, "You also have lunch."
So it's important. But also, I'll tell you that nature will make things happen in such a way. It doesn't happen by chance. Last thing is um, work speaks for you. Please remember this. ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಬಸವಣ್ಣ
ಕಾಯಕವೇ ಕೈಲಾಸ.
ಕಾಯಕವೇ ಕೈಲಾಸ. When you work diligently, that will never go unnoticed by nature or by master. If at all you want to become closer and merge with master, the only means is work, work, work. And you should work in such a way that it should become an example for others. Not that you are going to go around boasting that I'm doing this, I'm doing that. No. That will only feed your ego. You should work in such a way that the effect of the work should impact as many lives as possible. And that's very, very important. And you know
Just
why
one
volunteers
question.
are, sorry?
Yeah, just one question connected to that. It is okay. So ನಮ್ ಈಗೋನ ನಾವು ಅಡ್ಡ ತರಬಾರ್ದು ಓಕೆ ಬಟ್ ನಾವು ಇಷ್ಟು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿ ತೋರ್ಸ್ಕೋಬಾರ್ದು ಓಕೆ but how can that happen actually? As a human tendency, we do something and we have a tendency to say to someone that, okay, I have done that. Okay, not in an exaggerated way, at least we'll tell that we have done. Can the work, whatever we do, can that also form as a samskara or work, whatever we do for the master or for the nature, that will never come as a samskara?
Work
I
that
know it.
you do,
Yeah, go on.
work that you do for the master without boasting about it, rather than becoming a samskara, it actually clears off some of your samskaras. It refines your ego. All the voluntary work that you do actually refines your ego. When the ego is refined, then you make faster progress because the samskaras get clean faster. So if you do the work emphasizing the ego or emphasizing yourself or individuality, what happens is the ego actually becomes stronger. When the ego becomes stronger, you are actually the work becomes part of your samskara. So the trick is doing the work while at the same time refining the ego and allowing the samskaras to get cleaned off much more faster and not forming new samskaras. So three benefits. If you do the work in the right perspective for the master, first one, you are not going to form new samskaras because you are doing the work on behalf of the master. You are not taking the ownership of the work. Secondly, you are going to refine the ego. Thirdly, since the ego is refined, your samskaras will get cleaned faster. So in these three ways, just doing some same work will actually hasten your journey in three times, threefold, in these three different ways. That's why work for work's sake. You just need to
How
work
to
for the sake of
handle
work.
how to handle conflicts in doing master's work. So that can also happen. You might want to do something different. I might want to do something different. I might so you understand, right? ತುಂಬಾ ಜನ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂತಾರೆ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಾರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಸೊ ಎವ್ರಿ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ರೈಟ್ ಇನ್ ದೇರ್ ಓನ್ ಪರ್ಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಸೊ sometimes we may get in some conflict but both are trying to do the nature's work or master's work.
Generally, enough space is available for all kinds of disagreements. That's one thing. Second thing is that if there are disagreements and enough space is not available to accommodate both the views, then you go with that view which causes least disharmony. You should not go with that view which actually causes maximum disharmony. So if the other person's view causes least disharmony, then we should be ready to give up our point of view and go with that. If the other point of view is actually creating a lot more disharmony, then I think we should stick to our view and then continue with it. The other person should be magnanimous enough to come to our view. So we can have disagreements at the level of the mind, no problem, but we should not have too strong disagreements at the level of the heart. That's what it is. Disagreements at the level of the mind is very much valid. But once it is decided that this is what we will do as a group, everyone should stick to it. So just earlier on, we were talking about the fact that we want to have a plan which is going to be in tune with the master's vision. There is enough freedom for every perceptor to come out with their own individual plan, which actually looks at the larger picture growth of the mission. And that's very, very important. You can actually, for example, you might actually want to do a particular kind of work in a local subcenter. There might be another function you might actually ask you to go and do a work in a different subcenter outside your center. So, for example, if a particular center already has, say, 10 preceptors, then where is the need for all the 10 preceptors to be there in that particular center? You might as well go outside to do work at a different center which does not have a preceptor. That makes sense because it will actually help in aiding the growth of the mission in that particular place. That flexibility you should have. And sometimes we might also need to request them saying that we have this work outside, we will finish this work and then come back. For example, one of the things that we are talking about is how to get a preceptor being available in every taluk of Karnataka. There are many taluks of Karnataka which does not have a preceptor. If it does not even have a preceptor, how can the mission grow there? So it becomes imperative for us to actually reach out to those taluks because they're also like us only. Now we might have the luxury of having nearly 600 preceptors in Bangalore. There are n number of taluks in Karnataka who are struggling not even with one. There are districts of Karnataka which are struggling without a preceptor. Bijapur doesn't have one. Haveri doesn't have one. So Bagalkot doesn't have. There are three districts who does not have a preceptor. Entire district. Now, don't you think then it becomes imperative for us to try to help our brothers and sisters in those areas? Can we say that we will continue to grow in our area, but that area can be just left behind? That cannot be so. Our job is to kind of reach out to all the brothers and sisters across the state, every taluk. Now, definitely, there will be some functionaries who might be for it. There will be some functionaries who might say that it's what do you say, unworkable or it's not feasible. There'll be all kinds of opinions. But the moment you get a chance to implement it, you don't need to fight with anyone. But the moment you get a chance to implement it, you should be able to try to implement it. Okay. Today, there is one preceptor who had come from a different district who gave the 11 o'clock sitting. There are about 6 candidates from that particular district now, in this batch, SNP 3. So we were just discussing with that particular preceptor about that even if 3-4 people pass out of 6, with the previous preceptors who already are there in the district, with these 3-4, if you add them, it will be like 10 or 12 preceptors in the district. That means going forward, that district should become self-sufficient so that every taluk in the district now has 1 or 2 preceptors. It should become self-sufficient. That's how it should be. You should not do work randomly. You should work in such a way that it actually is going to maximize the impact on the ground. That's how it should be. Okay. The funny thing is the Tumkur, which is next door to Bangalore, less than 100 kilometers, 70, 80 kilometers. There are many taluks of Tumkur which does not have a preceptor. Bangalore is brimming with preceptors. Tumkur, many taluks do not have preceptors. There are nearly 7 or 8 taluks which does not have a preceptor in Tumkur. Now, can you see the discrepancy? All in a matter of 70, 80 kilometers. Is this what master wants? Definitely not. See, like any person who is head of an organization would want a equitable distribution of the resource, equitable growth across the spectrum, right? It is no different in our system and organization. We need to develop an equitable distribution of the resource. And for that, some amount of effort will be necessary. It's not going to happen just like that. Some resource, some effort will be necessary from somebody. Many districts which now have good centers going on, like Nanjangud or Hunsur, did not have any preceptors, did not have any centers or abhyasis. 20-25 years back, people used to travel from Bangalore every weekend to these centers to give sittings, including Tiptur in Tumkur. Now they are very good thriving centers. That's something that we need to come up with. What we call as an outreach program. Work in your center is fine. But apart from that, you need to have an outreach program. And we only say give half a day, 1 day for that in a week. Enough. See, Tumkur, you go in the morning by 7 o'clock, you are back at home by 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock. It hardly takes 6 hours. Going is 1.5, 2 hours, giving sittings there 2 hours, and then coming back 2 hours. In 6 hours, you'll be back home. But how many people are actually ready to make this happen? Like we were talking about recently that in the younger, in the previous, our ancestors had lot of children, but they had lot of poverty, but they had lot of children. They gave a big blessing to our civilization. Otherwise, by this time, our civilization would have been in minority. It was a big blessing from them. Now, by Master's grace, many of the families in the system are now relatively well off. That being the case, neither we are utilizing this blessing of the Master in making us well off for the sake of the spreading the mission, nor we are utilizing this for the sake of our own civilization. We are not doing either thing. So anyway, we were just telling Nitin had come sitting recently. He's going to get married next year. So we were telling him that he should have 3 children. ನೀನ್ ಇದ್ದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಯಶಸ್ ಇದ್ದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ ಯು ಆರ್ ದೇರ್ ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ದ
Yes, sir.
ರೀಸನ್ ವೈ 3 reason 3 children
So one for the earth, one for the civilization, and one for the family.
3 children, one for the sake of earth. Earth is a place where the souls come in and actually uh, go towards its realization. So in other, the souls are coming for realization. That's one. No problem, you can leave Nitin. Second,
Okay.
second one is for the sake of our civilization. This is the only place on earth where your civilization can survive and thrive. There is no other place on earth. So don't forget that. So you need to give one child for the sake of civilization. And the third one is for your family. So all the three are necessary. Anyway, we did not even touch any maxims. I touched upon briefly the fourth maxim we are in. I did tell the fourth maxim. So to that extent, we have covered the fourth maxim today.
Brother, just one last question. Since it is being recorded and many people will watch, I just want you to put some light on one more point. You asked everyone to work for the mission, for the goal of master, but when they become a preceptor, what is that they should feel? Because I have interacted with a couple of them, and they feel like once they become preceptor, master uh, pushes them to central region or something they have their something in their mind. So they feel like they are kind of liberated. So please can just put some. I know I got the answer from you last time, but I just want this here.
When you are given permission by master, you are made a path towards Brahmanda Mandal. When you read spiritual anatomy, master says that when you come to the sixth point, which is the Brahmanda Mandal, you are liberated. An Abhyasi who is given permission as a preceptor by master, what exactly happens? A channel is opened from whichever point the Abhyasi is at, up to the sixth point. That's all that occurs. Not that suddenly the Abhyasi is pushed from whichever point, second, third point, up to the sixth point. No. In fact, in one of the sittings, Babuji was giving a sitting, and then he raises the Abhyasi by 1 point. Then in the same sitting, he raises the Abhyasi by another point. Then he's about to raise the Abhyasi by third point. Then Lalaji comes and says, "What are you doing?" If you do this, the nerves are going to get shattered. They will not be able to tolerate it. Then the question is, what exactly happens? So when the path is opened up, the channel is opened up to the Brahmanda, it becomes easier for the perceptor to go towards the Brahmanda. There are a lot of people who believe that they are made to stabilize or establish in Brahmanda or central region, something on all. They think all things which are like fanciful notions. All that happens is a channel is made from the Pindu Pradesh up to the Brahmanda. Now, what is the benefit then? The benefit is that you no longer face as many challenges in your journey, unlike an Abhyasi, where the channel is not there. It's almost like suppose you go to a forest. People have been walking in that forest and a walk path is already made. And if the walk path is visible, you can just easily walk on the path and then you can reach your destination. Just imagine a place that you go to the same place, there is no walk path. What are you going to do now? You have to create a particular walk path by clearing of all the obstructions. Right? So that is the difference in a journey of an Abhyasi versus a perceptor. Okay. In other words, the journey towards the Brahmanda becomes faster because a path has now been created, a channel has been created, and the obstruction in that channel has been cleared off to a large extent. That is all that happens. Secondly, by working for the master, apart from taking your own sitting, your own sadhana, you also have another means of making the journey by giving sittings. So every time you give the sittings, energy flows through that channel which has been made. The channel now becomes more and more broader as you go on give sittings. When the channel becomes more and more broader, it becomes that much easier, less and less obstruction for you. Just by giving sittings regularly, less and less obstruction for your own journey as an Abhyasi. So you have two means of progress, one as an Abhyasi, other one by working as a preceptor. Secondly, a channel is made and bulk of the obstructions which are there in terms of the journey of the Abhyasi or the perceptor towards the Brahmanda Mandala is actually removed. These are the two things that happens. You will grasp it after you come to you finish your preceptor training and come back. We will read you some documents and then actually tell you what exactly is done. You will also because you will also in due course of time have to do that work. So you will understand it at that time. Okay, that's all that happens. Even when we went for our training, this is exactly what was being said. That now that you are established in Brahmanda Mandala, we are all liberated. Not necessary. For master's work to occur through us, remember when we become preceptors, we become the arteries of the mission. We become channels for the master's work. That's all that occurs. Now, when we become channels, a channel is necessary for the master's energy to flow through us. So, during your preceptor training, that channel is what is created and made patent. That's all. That is the main thing that occurs. That itself actually changes your journey. You will notice that in the next few months, there will be a lot of changes that occur in your spiritual journey. Irrespective of how many points you move, that should not matter. But there will be a lot of changes in your life for the positive in the spiritual direction. But remember one fun thing I said earlier on that when you work spiritually, the mind gets worked on. And when the mind as an instrument is worked on, we can utilize the same mind for a material work also, for a spiritual work also. It's not like you are going to keep one mind to the side and say, no, this is for a spiritual mind, this is a better mind. I'm going to use a less better mind for the material work. No, there is only one mind. Once you make it better, it is good for both. Same thing with willpower. It's the same in both the directions. You have the same willpower in both. If the willpower is made stronger by your spiritual journey, the same willpower can be used for material journey also. There's nothing wrong with it. But then you will not do anything to use that willpower to bind yourself in more samskaras. Okay. After developing willpower, you will not ask, let me get 1 crore lottery next week. Because you know by that time, by that kind of a willpower when it comes, that is again creating samskaras for you. You will not wish that at all. So when the willpower becomes stronger, even though it can be used materially in the material realm also, you will become very astute in using it for the right occasion, not for all purposes. Does it make sense? So I hope it is clear. So later on, I'll share some of the things once you become preceptors. Because many of the people think that once you become preceptors, their learning has ended. Even in fact, today morning also, one of the preceptors was complaining to me that what are you people teaching? Everybody is coming out and they think that they know everything. So we want to emphasize to this batch specifically that you are just like getting trained in some particular thing. One aspect of that particular training is getting completed. There are huge number of things that you need to learn. It's like you are just like learning the nursery tables, the nursery rhymes, and to think that by learning the nursery rhymes you become a poet, that will be like foolishness. You learn alphabets and nursery rhymes, and you think that you become a poet who can write anything. Each of
That
these things.
happened.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just asked that because the same discussion was happening in my house as well. So, uh, so he was saying like so many people who are not serious, everyone is applying. So that's when I was explaining to him what you always explain to me, the work, what is needed, the outreach programs, what is needed, the need
Huge number.
to increase. Yeah. So that's what I was explaining him. But again, at that point, he was suggesting, but will the people who are applying for SMP3, will they be doing that work? Are they that serious? So they have that capability. So, uh,
Capability is given by the master. All that we
but
have
the
to
will,
do.
but the willpower should come from within them.
Irappa, even out of 100 people who pass, even if 10%, 15% volunteer, that will be a big push. It doesn't matter. See, why should we bother about how many people actually do it? Just look back at your own college education. How many people in your college actually wanted to do any volunteer work at all in the first place? Forget about spiritual work, volunteer work. How many people actually are willing to do, or how many people you know of at your age who are doing volunteer work? You tell me.
Handful of them.
But will that put you off from doing what you are doing? Exactly the same thing. So, for a person who is willing and ready to do it, they will not get put off by people who are not doing it. That is where spirituality makes you self driven. You don't do the right thing for the sake of somebody else, you do the right thing for the sake of yourself. Okay? Now, when yourself now is oriented towards the master, whatever you do for the master is also benefiting your own self. They are not two separate things. Both are in the same direction. When your own self is directed towards the master, whatever you do for the master will also be beneficial for your own self. That's why even today morning when Vajpayee ji had come, he is the secretary of our mission. He was talking about that. You do my work and this, then see the magic that I can do for your work. That's what Master said. You do my work, then you see the magic that I can do for your work. And he is not expecting great deal of work from you. He is only expecting certain amount of work that is anyway going to be beneficial for your own journey. But then, when we lead a life, not just for our own selfish ends, but when we lead a life which is where we are actually meeting the needs of other people, that is a life worth leading, well remembered. Most of the spiritual people life we remember because their entire life was spent for the sake of others. And now I go back to the earlier point. Why spiritual work is so important? That human beings have not woken up for ages. And what is the first thing I said? Now, since we are
Slept
also sleeping,
can
let us put God also to sleep. Now, if you are getting into the work of waking up people, it's a very big work. You are trying to undo the work of a millennia, not only millennia, for thousands and lakhs of years. Now, that's a very, very fundamental, strong work, and that requires a lot of courage. You need to have a lot of courage to be in spirituality. It's very easy to be in materiality because you are just part of the herd. But to stand out in spirituality, you require a lot of courage and self confidence within yourself. Without these two virtues, it's very difficult to stand out in spirituality. Even if you say the spirituality will give such a courage that even if the world is going to go in one direction, I am happy to go in the other direction. That kind of a courage you should have. Vivekananda used to say, give me 5 lions, I'll change the face of this earth. I don't want thousands of sheep. I just want 5 lions who will go around and change the face of this earth. But are we ready to become like that? Are we ready for the master to allow us to work on it like that? Master is ready to work on us, but are we ready to allow that work? That's the point that we have to ask ourselves. Okay. So I've given you a few hints, which is very, very important for all the perceptors also. Not only all the perceptors, all the SNP candidates also. So it's important for them to kind of look at it and then see what is the best thing that they can do for themselves. And the other thing I realized today is that one fellow has sent, a candidate has sent, they are having 5 sittings every week. I said, what are you doing? I tell 2 sittings. You take 2 sittings locally. This fellow sent a timetable. Now, this week timetable, see the timetable. I was actually looking at the timetable, 5 sittings from 3 different people. I said, what are you doing?
is it good or
So
bad?
it is not good. You just need to take 2 sittings because it's like eating 5 times every week. Why are you eating 5 times? Whatever you eat, you would have to digest it, no? So if you eat 5 times a day, I can guarantee you that in 10 years you'll get diabetes. Likewise, if you go on taking as many sittings every week for the next few years, I'm going to guarantee that something is going to go wrong. Transmission is the food for the soul. Any food that you take needs to be digested. Please underline this. So you should not overdo sittings. So I just messaged back to that person saying that please do not take so many sittings. We just said 2 sittings per week. Don't make your life difficult. Take it easy. In fact, I'm just thinking